reason why people stay quiet about being sexually abused is because of stigmatization and stereotyping. Now, I'm not going to go to the details and define what stigmatization or stereotyping is because we all know that, but I'm going to use 4 examples to just bring forth the picture of stigmatization and stereotyping because I believe that these 4 examples are important. Let's say there's a man and then he has a friend who is a man. When guy number 1 goes to guy number 2 and tells them that he thinks what happened between him and the girlfriend is something that was forced, something that he really didn't want to happen, but it somehow just happened. It's so easy for guy number 2 to say, "Hey Buddha, uko sure si wewe uko na dai your stuff." Another example is when a woman comes and says that she has been sexually assaulted by the husband. It's very easy for people to just judge this person and say that wanawake siku hizi wako na drama, anataka kumdivorce ndio apate pesa yake. Another example is a young boy who is sexually abused by an older man or an older woman who is trusted by this family. Society tends to shut the boy down because probably kids don't know what they're talking about. And men, especially, even young boys, tend to be blamed for sexual assaults even though they are victims to the sexual assault. The last example is a teenage lady who is trying to tell the parents that she has been sexually assaulted by the boyfriend. Now, it's very easy to say that this teenage girl is trying to cover up for having had sex with the boyfriend. All these cases are easy to shun away. It's very easy to judge or blame the victim. And by the way, in the next point, I will be sharing with you why it's not worth it to blame these people or judge them. I'll be telling you why it's important to believe what they're saying. For the people who have been judged or blamed for being victims, I know that stereotyping and stigmatization brings about anger and it brings about frustration. I will just say that if you're still facing stigmatization, if you're still being stereotyped for what happened to you, it's important that you find financial independence as soon as possible and get to a better environment where people are not stigmatizing you or stereotyping you. The reason why people do this is that they're ignorant that things like date rapes are possible and things like rapes within marriages are possible. They're ignorant of the fact that men can also be vulnerable in their lives. People do this because they lack the information. The important thing that we can do is to help other people know more about these things by sharing videos like this particular one that I'm making right now, so that they can at least understand and see things from a different perspective. I know it's not easy to be stereotyped. I know it's not easy to be stigmatized. I would just like to say that anger, bitterness, and frustration are places that we pass through. We're not meant to stay there and camp there. So if you're going through a moment of anger, if you're going through a moment of bitterness or frustration, I know how hurting it can get. But do not stay there. Work yourself through it. Try and take steps towards healing just so that you can feel better, that you can get better. Not for others, you're doing it for you, for the sake of your own inner peace. It's not easy, it's not simple, but it's worth the effort. The 4th reason why people stay silent is because of invalidation. When we rob people of their reality, then it becomes a very dangerous thing. And just like I said, it's important to believe someone when they come to you and tell you somebody has sexually assaulted them. And this is just plain statistics. It's not something that I'm coming up with. The reason why we should believe people when they come and tell us that they have been sexually assaulted is because only 8% of people who claim to have been sexually assaulted usually lie about the fact that they have been sexually assaulted. So it means that the other 92% of people who mention about being sexually assaulted are actually speaking the truth. When that little kid comes and tells you that mommy or daddy, auntie touched me here, and they point to this, we know those sensitive areas. When they point to that place, when kids say they have been touched, it's worth the investigation. Most kids don't really know what sexual abuse is, so they'll just tell you that somebody touched them. So it's important to go and investigate instead of invalidating people, because something happens when you invalidate people. When you laugh at that little kid and tell them that they don't know what they're doing, because of course this is the aunt, this is somebody you trust. but this girl is trying to insinuate that something happened to them. It's worth to ask for details, because a kid like that is brutally honest and will tell you everything. So I really think that it's about time that we stopped invalidating people. When we tell a young boy who has been sexually abused by an older man, say the pastor, and we invalidate them by telling them, do not cry about that, you're a man. Do not talk about that. People will question your sexuality. Do not feel angry about that. You're a Christian. It's like we are suppressing these little boys' feelings. We are suppressing their need to deal with this thing that has hurt them. In the end, all these things turn into very ugly things. And that's what I'll be talking about in the next video. I'll be talking about what really happens to these people who we invalidate, specifically how it affects their sex life as adults and how it affects their relationships as adults. If you have been sexually assaulted before, I just want you to know that you're not alone. And if you're just realizing now that you have ever been sexually assaulted, it's okay. What's important is for us to deal with these things. So many times do I see people sitting down in a setting to talk about the rape cases. But what is the solution to this? I always keep repeating, you can never stop something unless you stop the reason as to why it exists. Take for example terrorism. We cannot kill terrorism unless we kill the reason as to why terrorism exists. We cannot kill sexual abuse unless we kill the reason as to why people get sexually abused. Most of us have grown up with the myth that people who are perpetrators do so because they just want sexual gratification. Statistics, on the other hand, say that people who are sexual abusers do so because they want power, control. It goes back to, why does the perpetrator want this control? Why do they want power? It's because at one point in their lives they felt very, very vulnerable or very, very helpless. And that's why you get to realize that most perpetrators come from dysfunctional backgrounds. They come from dysfunctional families. It could have been that a young boy saw daddy hitting mommy and they felt vulnerable just by seeing that they can't help their mothers. It could have been a mom who was emotionally abusing the father. There are so many things that can make somebody feel vulnerable and want to claim that vulnerability back in one way or another. And so they end up being perpetrators. It is possible that somebody who was sexually abused once upon a time will continue the trend because they felt vulnerable when they was being sexually abused, and the only way they know how to claim back that inner child that was stolen away from them is by sexually abusing someone else in order to feel that power just in the same way it was taken away from them. What I'm trying to say, that will force us to go back to the people who a certain perpetrator and ask them, why did you make this person feel vulnerable at this particular time? And you will find that this perpetrator were also. And so it's a whole chain where we'll try to go back to the person who had the person who had the person who had the person, and we might just end up going 1,000 years behind just to find the initial person who made someone feel vulnerable and connect the dots going forward. But we are only human. We do not have a time machine to go back and find that initial person who initiated these feelings of vulnerabilities and helplessness. So the other way that we can fix this is by helping those people who have been hurt to get healed so that they don't get to hurt other people. And that is why I'm really doing this. I'm trying to help people find the root cause of their problems, just so that they can get to deal with them, and just so that they can get to have a better life, a better mental health and a better emotional health that will help them and others as well. So I understand that chances of these things being tackled at school or even at church or maybe even at home is very minimal, because the moment people stay with these pains, the moment people stay with these depressions and anger, and we just tell them at the surface that, you know, you will feel depressed when you get sexually abused, you need to go to the hospital when you get sexually abused, you will feel embarrassed, afraid. Why will they feel these things? That's the question, and that's what I'm really trying to answer in this video, why I'm talking about these things in depth. I don't believe that talking about things on the surface will really help us as human beings. We really need to talk about things from the roots. I don't want to go on until the end of the day. Thank you so much for watching. I would really appreciate it if you commented down below with something. Even if you have nothing to say, you can simply just write the word speechless. I would still appreciate that. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and become part of this awesome family. And also to just show appreciation for the hard work that I put in for these videos. Have an awesome rest of September. Shalom and peace be with you all. Bye.